everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to the long put off Cinderella project. It's been a little bit since I worked on this dress. In fact, I think at this point it's been about a month since I worked on this dress. She has been just hanging out in that naughty corner because of that darn Bertha. But I have decided it is finally time to return to Cinderella and actually get her out of the naughty corner. I can't promise I'll be working on the Bertha this week, but at least I can work on other aspects of Cinderella and see if I can actually attempt to finish this dress. So what we're going to start with this week on Cinderella is going to be the sleeve decoration. I had already kind of pinned it in place here. Ooh, she's fallen, she's getting undressed. I have this gathered lace and it's going to go with these two tiers on the sleeve. And then one of the other things that I had done was that I made the sleeve just a little bit too tight, I think, at the bottom. I might have to watch my old vlogs and see if that is true. So I had actually opened up the very bottom of the sleeve here and I need to make it just slightly looser, I think. I think that was what was going on. So yeah, I'm gonna check my old vlogs, see if that was what was going on, because now it's been a month and I can't remember, and do that seam back up, but I'm also going to put the lace ruffles on the sleeves. So I'm gonna do that for both sleeves and then maybe return to the Bertha. If I don't return to the Bertha, if I'm not ready yet, then I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put the skirts on the bodice and deal with everything being together. It will be harder to do some of the things like intricately going through the machine, but I have been lacking most of my hand sewing needles because they're all in the cartridge pleating of the skirt. I think I've got like 6 needles in the back of this skirt that have just been sitting there for the past month and a half at this point. So I want my needles back and therefore I should attach the skirt. Also, if I attach the skirt, if you've seen that other video where I talked about giving a mouse a cookie, if I attach the skirt, then I can put the ruffle on the skirt. So I can do a whole bunch of things while still ignoring the Bertha. It's great. The other thing that I am ready to do, because I actually had my friend Emily of the Sucky Seamstress help me with this a while ago, is that I have marked where the back closure needs to be, and so I can actually go ahead and put all of those hooks and eyes on that back closure. So that'll be a great thing to get out of the way as well. So those are kind of my goals for this week. We're going to start with the sleeves, do the closure, attach the skirt, and maybe work on this elephant in the room of the Bertha. If I do wind up working on the Bertha, one of the things that I'm curious about trying is that I have seen this one tutorial, and several of you suggested this as well, where basically the Bertha is on a base that is patterned the same as the bodice neckline, just like a flat pattern, and then strips, bias strips of the pleats basically are laid on top of that. So that is something that I might attempt to try if I can't get what I already have to play nicely. I might just sort of start from scratch and start all over, but that's for another day. We're not there yet. So let's go ahead and start with sleeve decoration. So what I'm doing here for the sleeve is that I measured where those ruffles were before, like how far they were from this seam right here, and then how far this one was from this one. And so this distance right here was 2 5/8 inches all the way around the edge of the sleeve. And then this distance here though, here at the inside arm, it was 6.5 inches, but at the outside edge, it was 7 inches. And I did like the sort of shape that it was giving. So I'm just following that. And what I've done is I've drawn little dots here with my friction pen, though just FYI, friction pen really does not erase from this fabric. But I've drawn little dots here anyway because they're going to be covered up with the lace. And so that is 2 5/8 inches from here. And then here it's 7 inches, 6 3/4 inches, 6.5 inches, same thing repeating on the other side of the sleeve. So now I have already gathered up that lace. I'd gathered it up a month ago. So I'm going to just pin that in place and sew it, hopefully with kind of an even gather. I did also take out the sleeve. I don't think you can really even tell anymore, but I tapered it out from about right here, and I tapered it out 1/4 inch on each side. So the seam allowance now in here is tiny, but it'll work. And then obviously I still need to stitch down the inside here by hand, but that will happen later when I'm in a hand sewing mood. Tonight, I'm just trying to get these done. The other thing that I noticed, because I had to play around with the Bertha at least a little, is that it is actually kind of holding its pleats. Like I took all the pins out and pressed it again to get the scarring of the pins out, and they seem to be holding in place. So maybe I can just go with this. I've pinned it along the top where it fits, and I've pinned it here at the center front, though I'll need to move it a little bit to put the lace on the bottom. But yeah, maybe that'll work, but I still have to figure out the back of this. But I don't think that I'm gonna have to do the bias strip thing, at least for the front, and ideally not for the back too, because if I only do it for the back, I feel like it would look a little weird. I don't know. It's still frustrating, but maybe it's not as scary. Anyway, I am going to go back to adding the lace on the sleeves. Hey, look, actual progress. We have sleeve ruffles. Ta-da! The funny thing is there's actually more gathered to the bottom of the sleeve than to the top. It just looked kind of wrong when I had this dense of a gather up here. So this is 57 inches gathered to, I didn't actually measure it, but you know, the smaller part of the sleeve. This is 51.5 inches gathered to the larger part of the sleeve, but I think it looks right. I think it looks really balanced. So I'm quite happy with how that looks. This means that tomorrow I either have to tackle the Bertha or probably attach the skirt to the bodice, and then that would mean I'd have to tackle the Bertha with the skirt attached to the bodice, which would be annoying. So we'll see which one I choose. So obviously this is not done, but I just have to come on here and say that this took me, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 max minutes to do. Literally all I did was I laid some fabric on the bias, as in like kind of the selvage point corner was like up here, and then it was biased down this way. And I just sort of matched up where this pleat needed to go with the front and so on and so forth, and then just like folded it and pinned it. I haven't pressed it yet, but it seems pretty okay. And then I cut off some of like way excess. I think it's only going to go to about here, but I just wanted super excess. So while I did one side, I guess I should try the other side now. Well, this side took more like 20 minutes, but it is now done too. So now the hard part though, because this doesn't actually close on Antoinette, is that I have to take this, lay it flat, and make sure that the pleats match up in the center back and on the shoulders. The shoulders I can maybe cover with a bow or something. The center back really has to match up, and in fact, I may do a seam here and make the closure on the center back. I haven't decided yet. Sometimes they close the Bertha like this, sometimes they wrapped over and close on the shoulder, so have to decide. Okay, so the Bertha is now ready to be sewn, I guess? I'm like hesitant because I'm worried that I'm doing this totally wrong, but I have pressed under all of like the bottom edges here. I've cut it to the shape of the neckline. The back is all set too. I've done the same thing in the back, and yeah, I mean, it's looking good, I think. I need to, like, I haven't finished any of the edges, so I think I might serge around the top to both finish off the fabric, which does tend to fray, and also just to like keep it in place. The one thing that I am, well, it's not the one thing. I'm nervous about a lot of things, but the one thing that I am torn about specifically is that I was wearing nail polish until about 5 to 10 minutes ago, and some nail polish, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but some nail polish heat transfers. And this nail polish was A, flaking off, and B, is the kind that heat transfers. And I wound up getting 2 dots of nail polish on the white Bertha right here. And then I tried to remove said nail polish with nail polish remover on a Q-tip, and this dot wound up, well, both of them a little bit, but the dots wound up spreading instead of going away. So that's great. So now I have this like orange-red thing right here, and I wasn't sure that I was going to put something on the shoulders. There's a tiny dot actually right up at the top too. But yeah, I wasn't sure that I was going to put something on the shoulders, but now I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna have to, like a bow or something to hide that. And unfortunately it's a little farther forward than I would have liked because the shoulder seam is here and this is here, so it would have to be a really freaking big bow or something. Yeah, not happy with that. and I don't know how to get it off. So if you have an idea of how to get melted and smudged nail polish chips off of a white poly matte satin fabric, please let me know in the comments, because obviously I'm not redoing the Bertha though, because that would be way too much work. So the Bertha is as it is. The back plates are still pinned. I think they're going to need to take more time to set, because the front was pinned for a month and then it kind of set in place. So I'm going to leave that, but I think, yeah, I'm going to serge around the edges of the neckline and that back edge to get those in place. And I'm going to stitch this down by hand, probably first, because otherwise it'll get stuck in the back edge. And at that point, I think I can continue actually working on the bodice, like binding off the neckline and figuring out the closures and stuff like that. So you guys, I'm so close to getting done with this Bertha. Like, it's totally not done, but I'm getting close. Oh, I guess I should describe how I actually did this. So in the sides here where it met, first off, I did decide to make it just a closure where like the Bertha is going to close like that and lap, and I made sure the pleats matched exactly. But for the shoulders, I made sure that the pleats were going to match exactly, and then I cut it so there was only about a 1/2 inch of seam allowance, I suppose, but I'm not doing this like a seam where I sew the seam together. So I have folded it over right here, and then like it's right up against the piping on the shoulder, which I don't know why I did piping on the shoulder, because clearly I covered it completely up, but I could feel where the piping ridge was, I guess, so that was kind of helpful. And I made it so that it folded over and then butted up against each other, and all of those pleats match. I am sewing this by hand. I'm just going to do prick stitches or whip stitches or something like that, so it should look nice, hopefully, even once it's done. And yeah, that's about where I am. I feel like this is kind of a load off that I've actually like finished it. It's obviously not finished, but I've actually figured it out, I think is the thing. And hopefully I can make this work all properly and get this thing freaking done. It's not going to be done this week, but ideally I would love to have this whole project done next week. I think that would be super, super awesome. We'll see. So I was going to turn on the camera to talk to you about where I'm at this project, but then Dora jumped up on me and needed some love. So now I don't know that I can talk to you, but I figured you'd want to see Dora. So here's Dora. Anyway, I have been working on the bodice, working on hand sewing all of the edges of the Bertha down. It's all serged to the bodice now too, and I've realized that what I need to do before I can do the piping around the neckline is that I need to do a facing for the closure. So the way the closure is going to work is hooks and eyes, and one side's going to fold over the other side, and the side that's underneath, I just feel like I want more there, so like more structure there that I can put the bars and stuff onto. So that's why I want to make a facing on the back side. So what I have done is I've taken the bodice and I've laid it flat on some more of the pink satin and traced the edge of that and made a 2-inch wide strip that I'm going to attach the back of the bodice. It is actually long enough, this facing, and now Dora's standing on it. No, not a table. What did I just say? What did I say? Fine, go over there. Don't stand on my fabric. Ugh, cat. Okay, we're gonna do it this way. So the facing that I'm making is that's where I put you in the first place. The facing that I'm making is actually long enough that it will also be a facing for the opening of the skirt. So it'll go all the way down the center back, including the skirt, lap over the skirt so that no serging will show, and so that it'll give it a little bit of a placket for the overlap, because otherwise it's just like cartridge pleating butting up against each other. So this will create a placket where the placket can go underneath this side of the cartridge pleating, and then the cartridge pleats can butt up against each other here with the placket underneath. So that's what I'm doing now. I am cutting out this facing and serging the edges and then attaching it to the edge of the bodice portion for now. It will be attached to the skirt once I attach the bodice to the skirt. but for now it's just gonna be the bodice. But by attaching that up at the top, that means I can go ahead and run the piping and then sew the piping down on the inside. It's just gonna be white piping made out of the same fabric as the Bertha, and that is going to go all around the top of the neckline for a nice clean finish. All right, so first off, appearance-wise, I'm about to go see Cruella, so that's why I look like this. But secondly, I realized that I've kind of forgotten to tell you a couple steps that I did Bertha-wise, and I ought to probably do that. So last I talked to you about, I was putting the facing on the back of the bodice here. And so that facing is in place. It's not really fully stitched down. It's stitched down right at the very top so that I could do the binding, but I haven't had time yet to stitch it down all the way inside or to put any hooks and eyes or anything like that on. I have actually been spending most of the last 3 days at this point editing the video that you will have seen, I think, just the last one, the one about 100 years of plus size fashion that took me freaking ages to edit. So Cinderella unfortunately kind of fell to the wayside so that I could get that video done. So I have done some other stuff on Cinderella though. Besides putting that facing on, I also did make piping out of the white satin, and I put the piping around the whole neckline here, and I have finished fully stitching the Bertha by hand, the hems, the little shoulder joins, and then I've also finished stitching the inside of the piping down. So that is all now complete. And the next step now is to go ahead and attach the skirts to the bodice. However, it's Sunday already, which means it's actually going to be in next week's video to attach the skirts. So I really didn't get that much done this week, unfortunately. However, I really jumped over my giant hurdle of the Bertha. So I am proud of accomplishing the Bertha this week. It's not 100% done. There does still need to be the lace put around the bottom edge of the Bertha, but I have not yet had a chance to go to Joann's to pick up more of said lace, and I am pretty darn certain I do not have enough left. So next week I will be getting more lace for the Bertha, attaching that, attaching the skirts to the bodice, putting the hooks and eyes on the back of the bodice, doing the hem of the skirt, putting the ruffle on the skirt. I don't know that I'm gonna accomplish all of this. And if I get all of that done, then I'll add bows and it'll be done. So it's really not that far. I don't know if I'm gonna get it all done in 1 week. Maybe it's gonna be 2 weeks more. This project is taking forever, but I think it'll be really pretty when it's all done. And luckily it will be like kind of in full flower season. I'll get to go take pictures with like the roses and stuff. So that'll still be awesome, and I am excited, but it might be 1 to 2 weeks more on Cinderella. However, Bertha's accomplished. I'm happy, so I hope that you're happy too, or at least you are slightly proud of me for jumping over this thing that was scaring me for a month. Anyway, I do hope that you liked this video. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon, and oh, and she just got me. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and other costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down below in the description. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Heidi and Sharon. Thank you all so much for joining me this week. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!